One of the questions you have to answer when you learn a new programming language is whether arguments passed into a method are being passed by copy or by reference. Let's define these terms. When you pass arguments by copy, that means you're passing a variable into a function or a method, and within the method, a copy of the variable is received. It's not attached in any way to the original value before it was passed in. And when you pass into a method by reference, that means you're referring to the original object, the object that existed outside the method, and if you make any changes to the object within the method, it will affect whatever was passed in originally. In Java, variables are always passed into methods by copy. But there are certain behaviors that can make you think you're passing by reference. I'm going to describe 3 scenarios and explain how each of them proves the point that arguments are passed by copy. Let's take the simplest scenario, passing primitive values. When you pass a primitive value into a method, a copy of the original value is made, and any changes inside the method won't change the original. Here's a custom method named incrementValue. It receives an integer value named inMethod. Then within the method, it's being incremented by 1, and then that new value is being output to the console. In the calling code, I start with a variable named original with a value of 10, and I output that original value. Then I call my custom method and pass in the original value, and then I reprint the original value again. With primitive values, it's pretty straightforward. The original value is not affected. The change is made to the copy of the value inside the method, but the original value stays the same. But now let's take another example. Primitive values wrapped in complex objects. In this example, my custom method receives an array of integers. The array is a complex object. The values that are referenced by the array are still primitives. Within the method, I'm incrementing the first item in the array by 1 and then printing out its value. Here's my calling code. I create an array named AROriginal. It has 3 items, 10, 20, and 30. I print out the first item in the array, then I call the method, then I print out the original first item again. In this example, I'm making a copy of the array. That's what I'm passing in. But the new array is still referencing the original values that are stored in the outer scope. So, in the original print, I get 10. Within the method, I get 11. But when I return to the outer scope, the original value has now changed. And let's take a third example, an object variable or reference variable. Remember that I've mentioned that reference variables point to an object in memory. So when you pass the variable to the function, a new variable is made, but it's pointing to the original object. And so you now have 2 references pointing to the only object. And if you change the object, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Here I'm starting off with an array. It has 3 items. And here's a diagram showing the location of these items in memory. There's item 0. And when I reference the object from within the method, also using an index of 0, I'm pointing at the same object. So when I return, it's not surprising that it's changed. Now, strings are a special case. Let's take a look at this example. I have a method named changeString, which receives a string as an argument. Within the method, it changes the value to a new string and prints it out. Here's my calling code. I create a variable named original and print it out. Then I call my method and I pass the value in, and then I return and I print it out again. And in this example, the string does not change. The string data type is a contrary example. With most complex objects, changing the object within the method would have changed the object outside the method. But as I've mentioned previously, string values are immutable. Once declared, they cannot change. So this is a different behavior that you'll see with strings than with other complex values. When you pass a string into a method, a copy of the entire string is created within the method, and it's detached from the original value outside the method.